Mr. Brokers, it's a pleasure to see you once again for a third virtual panel discussion of 2020. We thank you for joining us and for the very positive feedback you've given to our first two discussions. We'll continue to do these virtually for the time being, while remaining hopeful for a return to in-person meetings as soon as possible. Obviously, the pandemic is still a major concern, especially here in South Florida. As we continue to serve our clients, we should do so following recommended guidelines on limited gatherings, mask wearing, hand washing, and social distancing. Today, we're excited to turn our focus toward downtown Miami and its critical role as our region's primary hub for business, entertainment, dining, tourism, and of course, residential development. Whether your primary territory is Coral Gables, North Miami, Coconut Grove, Miami Beach, Aventura, Pinecrest, or other neighborhoods, we all sell Miami, and our clients will definitely want to know about the issues discussed today. During the Zoom meeting, which is being recorded and saved for those who cannot attend, everyone will be muted except for the panelists and our moderator. We encourage you to submit questions via Zoom's chat feature, and we'll do our best to answer them during and after the discussion. Please remain in the meeting once the discussion is completed for a few quick housekeeping notes, and be advised that any slides or presentations you see today will be emailed to all members in the coming days. At this time, I'd like to introduce our amazing moderator, for whom the classic line about not needing an introduction certainly applies, but I'll do it anyway. Miami-raised and Havana-born Alicia Cervera La Madrid comes from a family whose name is synonymous with luxury real estate. In addition to being a past chair and current board member of the MBF, she's also a board member of the Downtown Development Authority, putting her in an ideal position to lead today's discussion. Under her leadership, the full-service real estate brokerage-related Cervera Realty Services has sold over 14,600 units. I didn't know there were that many, representing over $6.8 billion in sales. When the marketplace began to shift in 2018, Alicia led sales teams to close to over $720 million worth of units, RCRS, represented in developer sales. In 2011, she was named managing partner of Cervera Real Estate, and together with the company's leadership, spearheaded an effort to expand the company base. Passionate about real estate, Alicia continues to lead by example, servicing developer clients' needs, while also assisting associates with individual or bulk transactions. Today, she oversees over $4.5 billion of real estate sales in both pre-construction and general real estate, while serving on the boards of some of our region's most prestigious and influential organizations. Please welcome Alicia Cervera La Madrid.
So thank you, Jeff, for that lovely introduction. And my pleasure to be here today with all of you, and super excited to be introducing you to our panelists who are part of our esteemed team at the Downtown Development Authority. So I'm off script already, right? So where am I going? So they're going to help shed some light on the importance of Miami's urban core and the critical role that the Downtown Development Authority plays in growing, strengthening, and promoting its economic health and vitality. So to that end, I'm going to introduce two of the DDA's most accomplished and dynamic professionals who will be joining us today and really leading the discussion. So Alona Vega Jaramillo has been working on the business development team for the DDA since 2016. She's in charge with engaging with companies to ensure that existing downtown employees remain in downtown, employers, I should say, and employees remain in downtown, and with recruiting new companies to the agency's district. Focus on building downtown's finance and technology sectors. Alona travels extensively and promotes the city to both domestic and international investors. Before joining the Miami DDA, Alona worked at Enterprise Florida, the state's official economic development agency, for 11 years. She was based in Miami, where she helps Florida manufacturers develop markets abroad and recruited strategic foreign district investment to the state. Welcome, Alona. Neil Schaefer also joined the DDA in 2015, bringing with him 16 years of experience creating livable communities and destinations through research, design, collaboration, and on-site construction management. On a daily basis, Neil focuses on enhancing the urban design, placemaking, resilience, and mobility in downtown Miami, creating a desirable place to live and work. Before joining the Miami DDA, Neil worked at EDSA Planning and Landscape Architecture firm for 8 years in its Fort Lauderdale, Abu Dhabi, and Shanghai offices, focusing on sustainability, waterfront development, wildlife parks, resorts, and urban planning. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you, Alicia.
So the presentation today is going to have a lot of visuals. Don't freak out, but it's 140 slides. And as we were thinking about this, we thought, should we eliminate some, should we not? And I, who like to always bring down these presentations at the end, said, you know what, absolutely not. It's great stuff. It's really valuable stuff. And a lot of it are just the pretty pictures, but they tell an amazing story. So with that, Ilona, you have the floor, and off you go.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much, Alicia. Thanks for the intro. First, bear with me as I try to upload. Can everybody see this? Okay, all right, good. So let me just move this up here. All right, perfect. Okay, so thank you again, Alicia, for the introduction. It's great to be here in my bedroom, reporting live. I'm just missing my glass of wine because it is happy hour. So you know, I do hope all of you have a glass of wine and you kick back and enjoy this upcoming hour. Neil and I had the opportunity to present to a group about 2 weeks ago, and we had really good response. And so we were asked to come and address you, and we were asked to provide more information. So we want to give you as much as we can, thus the 100 slides. We'll go through some faster than others, but in a nutshell, what we're going to do today is give you an introduction to the Miami Downtown Development Authority, talk to you a little bit about demographics. Then I'm going to focus in on business development, which is what I'm focused on here at the agency. Then we're going to talk about some of the venues and assets that have been introduced in downtown over the last couple of years. And then I'm going to hand it over to Neil, who's going to talk to you about some of the big events. And then he's going to walk you through all of the so exciting, huge infrastructure projects and amenities that are coming down the pipe. And I'm sure you're going to walk away and just be so excited that you actually live and you're selling this great city. So
I'm going to say that I think you're okay, Ilona, if we pause. If someone puts up a question in the chat, in the group chat, then we'll take that question so that we can address it when it's relevant. And if you think it's relevant, just or okay to wait till the end, then we'll take the questions at the end. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Right. Yeah, and jump in if whatever. Okay.
Yeah, and Alicia or Jason, if you see anything in the chat that you think we should be addressing, feel free to chime in and direct us.
Yeah, we will. We'll direct those questions to you. Great.
Okay, so here we go. Downtown Miami, the epicenter of the Americas is how we refer to downtown. So, you know, what is downtown? It's, you know, what we call downtown has to do with our district. And our district is this map on the right, which is everything that is in blue, okay? Everything in that blue area is a part of the Miami Downtown Development District, which includes 3 neighborhoods. The bottom one is the Brickell neighborhood, which we refer to as the financial district. And then once you cross the river, then you are in the central business district. And then when you hit Northeast 9th Street, which is around the American Airlines Arena, then you're in the arts and entertainment district. And as you can see, it goes up to 22nd Street, but it does not include Midtown or Wynwood. So this is the district that we're talking about.
And Ilona, before you move on, Ilona's going to tell you just a couple seconds a lot more about the DDA in downtown Miami. But really quickly, if you look at that image to the left, that's a 3D model forecast, and that's something DDA does as well. They take a look at all of the built-out infrastructure, buildings, ground floor, urban planning. They look at what's already existing, what's in the development pipeline, what's under construction, and what's planned. So at any time, and they share this as an open platform, you can know what's coming along in downtown.
Okay. Why is it not?
While Ilona's doing that, I will say that this is a special tax district that funds the DDA. And one of the things that I found really interesting as a board member, and Ilona, when you're ready, we'll go, is that we actually had the piece on the bay in Edgewater come and really lobby to get added to the DDA. And unfortunately, we were not able to do it because of the criteria, but it was very interesting to me that in this climate, they were asking to have their taxes assessed slightly higher, and it is very slight, in order to be included in the district. That's how good the work that these guys do is. Go ahead, Aunt Lynn.
Okay, all right, there. So I want to first by talking about the mission, because the mission of the Miami DDA is what guides everything that we do in the agency. So I want to read this out loud. Our mission is to grow, strengthen, and promote the economic health and vitality of downtown Miami. As an autonomous agency of the city, the Miami DDA advocates, facilitates, plans, and executes business development, planning, and capital improvements in marketing and communication strategies. So as you can see, that's a lot of territory. And we do all of this with a staff of about 28, maybe 30 people. And I'm going to go into further detail now. Why is it that sometimes it works and other times?
It's called technology.
Mona, if it's being tricky and you want me to pull it up, I can try, and you can prompt me to, I don't know if it'll make a difference or not.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm sorry, just bear with me here. It was working 2 seconds ago. Yeah, can you try?
Sure, absolutely. Let me see if I can do it right now.
Okay.
All right, is that working?
Yeah, that's working.
Let me just see, let me just check real quick to see if it actually will go forward. Yes, it will. Well, okay. It's very touchy. Go ahead, Ilona.
Okay. All right. So now the Miami DDA. So we talked about, the mission of the organization. We are an independent agency of the city, and we are funded through a special tax levy on all the properties within our district boundaries. So if you go back to that first slide, all the real estate properties in that boundary, pay taxes, and we get a levy from those funds. We have a 15-member board of directors comprised of 3 public appointees. Commissioner Reyes is our chairman, and Eileen Higgins is our vice chair. And then we have 12 downtown property owners and residents or workers that help to guide the agency. As we mentioned,
important to note that we have representation from City of Miami and Dade County, so that there's a huge effort there to collaborate between both that often don't collaborate so easily.
Thank you. Yeah, good point. And then we have people like Alicia de Cerveras, who have spent a tremendous amount of investment and time in growing our downtown, who get to sit on the board, and they have a stake. They have a voice to see about what's going on in downtown. So here is here's a list, or here's a profile of all of our board of directors. I'm sure you recognize many of these people. They all either work in downtown, have investments in downtown, or represent downtown in some way. Like Franklin Sermis, who he's the director of the Perez Art Museum. So it's important for us to hear all of these different voices and have them contribute to where we all want the agency to go and the city to go as we move forward.
And Ilona, if I could just add, I've said this on previous presentations, and I do mean it. This board is not only a who's who of downtown leaders, activists, developers, business people, but they really take an active and engaged role in everything we do. They work with staff. They go out of their way. I don't know how they have any free time, but when they do, they push it towards our projects. They advocate with city and county commissioners. They show up actually at city commission meetings. They're amazing. One other thing I'd like to point out is the diversity of our board. It's incredible, all different sexes, ages, you name it, every culture background. So we have a real diverse, experiences that really drive everything we do. And if I could just transition to the next slide, you can see that in our staff as well.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Exactly. You can see a very diverse group of people here, and we all, we're all very active, and we all do so many different things. It's really amazing that what we can pull off. Christina Crespi is fourth person from the left. She's in the middle. Yes, and she is our executive director. And she was just appointed to that a few months ago, just before the COVID hit. So it's been a crazy couple of months.
I think we get so much done because we're a female-led organization.
Good point.
I'm sure. Yeah.
No doubt. Okay, so now the ambassadors and the DET teams are a very special part of our organization, and one of the most important things that we do as an agency, and we get a lot of recognition for this program. The downtown ambassadors are all these people that you see in the orange jerseys. These people are employees of the DDA, and their job is to be our downtown ambassadors. And it's no joke. I mean, their job is to be out there on the streets 7 days a week, and they're reporting things that need to be addressed. If there's trash on the corner of a certain street, if they see somebody that's walking around that might be lost, they're the eyes and ears of downtown, and are just making sure that everything is being addressed as it comes up. The people
Also, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that a very exciting part of this is that these people came out of a program where they started homeless, and then they went through the training and wound up with these jobs. So if you want to elaborate on that, you probably were on it. Yeah. Yeah,
thank you, Alicia. So the people in the yellow jerseys are part of the downtown enhancement team. Also the people in the purple jerseys as well. So the people in the purple and yellow jerseys are part of the downtown enhancement team. Now, this is a very special program that began in 2008, and we began in conjunction with Camilla's House, where we spend about $500,000 out of our budget every single year, and it's a transition program, and we call it the second chance. So people that are in the homeless shelter, we try to help them transition into a life of normalcy and having a shelter and having a full-time job. So we employ them. Their job is to clean downtown, where they pick up the trash, as you can see the pictures, as they clean up graffiti on public infrastructure. They also plant trees and do landscaping. And in the evenings, they go back to the Chapman Center and get training. They'll get training about how to, communicate to a potential employer, how to dress. And the idea is not to keep them in this job forever. The idea is to move them along. And so to date, there's been over 500 people that have successfully transitioned through this program, and it's something that we are very proud of. Okay, so this is very important. The Miami Downtown Master Plan. I encourage all of you to download it from our website, because this is the roadmap that helps us determine where we're going for the future until 2025. That's what we were looking at. And I don't know if Alicia was actually part of this publication, but it was published in 2009, which I find really interesting, because that was at the beginning, or right at the onset of the Great Recession in 2008. So I find it amazing that at that time, all the stakeholders got together, and they knew that we needed to come up with a plan for the future, so that we could understand how we were going to get out of that Great Recession. And it's amazing, everything that has happened since that time. And I'm going to read to you here the vision of this master plan, because I think it is so telling. The vision is to capitalize on our unique position as a major world city in a tropical waterfront environment to bolster downtown Miami's standing as the business, social, and cultural epicenter of the Americas. I love that vision, because it's so bold and it's so ambitious, and I give credit to all the people that were involved with this, because if I'm an investor, I want to invest my money in the future, right? I want to invest my money in a place that has a future and knows where it's going, and this master plan convinces me of that. In this master plan, it laid out 5 goals. And then under those goals, there's all these action items. I mean, I'm just going to read to you a few of them to give you an idea. So the first goal was to enhance our position as the business and cultural epicenter of the Americas. Now, you might, we take it all for granted, but, it wasn't that long ago that we were all complaining that there were no cultural venues in Miami, right? And now, we have had major growth and development of the major arts. I love that I was able to see Hamilton in Miami, last fall. I saw Les Mis. These are things that you had to go to New York to go see, right? So I'm very proud of that. The second goal was leverage our beautiful and iconic tropical waterfront. Neil is going to talk to you about the Riverwalk, the Baywalk, and some of the other major programs that fall under this goal. The third goal is to elevate our grand boulevards to prominence. Neil as well is going to tell you about some of the exciting things that are going on Biscayne Boulevard. The fourth goal, create great streets and community spaces. Neil is going to talk to you about Flagler and all the exciting things going on there. And then the last goal is promote transit and regional connectivity. Neil as well is going to touch upon that. And as you all know, we have come such a long ways when we did not have Virgin trains here and the Metro. And there's just so many exciting things that are coming down the pipe. So I encourage all of you, if you haven't, to go on our website, download this, because this helps you explain to your clients and your investors where Miami stakeholders are looking toward the future and where we want to go.
Just one last comment on that. We have done a wrap up of what goals have actually been accomplished since 2009. We're working on putting that together. And then there is the idea of, should we update this and look ahead to 2040, 2050? How has downtown Miami changed? And especially after COVID-19, what are going to be some of our goals moving forward?
Okay. Okay, so yes, COVID, you just reminded me. We're in the midst of COVID. So I'm going to show you some slides that were done pre-COVID with the assumption that one day we're going to get back to our pre-COVID lives. But as we go on in the presentation, I'll address our COVID situation right now. So, as I'm going to start talking about the business development. As many of you experience it, you're constantly trying to break those ideas of Miami, a place of parties, a place of, where people go out and they just come here to party and they go home, and that nothing real like business happens here. I spend all my days trying to break those ideas. And so, you do these presentations, and I'm going to share some information that's going to hopefully, help you and help clients understand that things have changed. We do, my previous boss used to talk about Miami being, your geographic location is sometimes your destiny. Yeah. And so, here you can look at this map and you see that that Florida is smack, Miami, of course, and Florida is smack in the middle of this wonderful map, and the smack in the middle of North and South America. And so, that is our destiny. Our destiny is the gateway to the Americas, because we are right in the middle of the two hemispheres, the North and South America. We're a peninsula. The state of Florida has many different ports. Very few states have ports. We have many. So that is a huge asset. And of course, Port Miami is the most important port, and it's right in downtown, which is a tremendous asset. So that's why we say we are the epicenter, because we are the heart. We are the core of this gateway to the Americas. We all take for granted the amount of foreign consulates, foreign trade offices, and national chambers of commerce that are here. You don't realize what a wonderful asset that is until you go to another city. All these connections help us build business relationships abroad. And so it's a tremendous asset to the city. And a lot of these offices are located in downtown. Downtown Miami, or metropolitan statistical area. This is how the government keeps track of the census. And the Miami metropolitan statistical area, which includes Miami-Dade County, Broward County, and Palm Beach, is the third most populous. It's the seventh largest metro in the U.S. We have 6.2 million. As many of you know, Florida is the third most populous state. We just surpassed New York a few years ago, which means more people are moving to New York to Florida than they are to New York. So we are growing fast. Our talent. So we all know about, you know, the great talent that's here. We have over 350,000, you know, students in Miami. The majority of residents in Miami are foreign born, and we all know that a lot of foreigners, immigrants, are the ones who became the great entrepreneurs of our nation. So we have a lot of talent and huge resources in our foreign in our base here. Live, work, play. I'm living this. I sold my car. I live on Brickell. I work in downtown, and I rarely leave downtown now. I've become so provincial. My husband and I, we just, you know, for us to go to the beach or to Coral Gable, it seems so far. So, you know, this is a demographic that is growing, and more people, especially from big urban centers, and they want to maintain this lifestyle. And I'll address COVID as we go on. The majority of people that live downtown are actually working aged. So that is a wonderful asset for employers. And when we're talking to companies, they want to know that, you know, that there's a lot of talent here, and a lot of the working class, demographics, they like this, they buy into this work, live, play concept.
And when you look at this slide, it's interesting to note that Miami and downtown is considered a college town, which that surprised me the first time I heard it. Of course, it's important for the activity and the excitement, but it's extremely important when we're out there recruiting and attracting talent. So that 8% may not look like a lot, but it's very significant in helping us get firms coming down here.
Yes, thank you. Okay, business. So let me quickly, this is what I do on my day-to-day. We have 20 million square feet of office space in downtown Miami. It's the largest amount of Class A office space in the county. It's concentrated in downtown. Of all the downtowns in Florida, we have the majority of office space. There's an additional 500,000 under construction, and we employ, and in downtown, we employ about 176,000 people. You know, really important, as Alicia mentioned, for companies looking for talent. I've been really focused on finance since I started the DDA. And during this whole COVID experience, I've been talking to a lot of finance folks from the Northeast, from the Midwest, and they are all very interested in coming to Miami, and particularly to downtown, so I'm getting a lot of traction. Okay, taxes, it's a big draw. A lot of these people in these urban areas like Chicago, New York, in areas, San Francisco, they're sick of the taxes. They are sick of it, and they don't want to be the last person holding the bag, turning off the lights, and they really believe their quality of life is going down. And that makes Florida, that makes Miami so attractive, a great tax environment here, pro-business.
This is a great slide, and you can see if you look across, you can see that if you add those taxes, we definitely are the you know, on the low end of that spectrum. So it's a beautiful slide for us. We talk about it a lot, but this allows you to quantify it, and very easy for our clients to understand the value.
You know, some example of brands that were built in South Florida. All these firms expanded their operations to Miami. And so there is a growing tech concentration, and we are trying also to double down on that and focus and spearhead that growth as well in downtown. These are the brands that have headquarters. As you know, we are the gateway to the Americas, and a lot of Latin American headquarters located in Miami, and a lot of them in downtown as well, employing many people. Professional sports. You know, whenever I talk to all these finance guys, and I say guys because the majority of them are guys, they ask me about sports. And the first couple of conversations, I was kind of at a loss. I knew about the Dolphins, maybe the Marlins, but I had to go back and do research. But this is really important. You know, guys particularly want to go somewhere where there's, you know, a lot of different sports opportunities and sports organizations, so they can, you know, feel part of it, feel part of a community and follow them.
So is Formula One really coming, and when?
Good question. There were talks. It was going to be in downtown at one point. Then they moved it to the stadium.
Right.
And that is where I left the conversation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I have the same question about Inter Miami. Is the stadium ever going to get built? Where? Yeah, so I hear you.
Tourism, okay, I just want to, this is an important slide because it's important to note that downtown Miami is the second most visited place in Miami-Dade County. You know, that's a tourist market that no one ever used to come downtown. So this is huge that we have come this far. Port Miami, we know it's the cruise capital of the world. A lot of those 5 million passengers stay in downtown. They go and eat in restaurants in downtown before and after their cruises. So it's a huge economic engine for us. And we can't wait for them to start doing cruises again, which I understand is August to do 50% capacity from what I understand.
Just to add to that, Alona, you were talking about Port Miami. Between cruise ships, cargo, freight, Port Miami right now is the single largest economic generator in the entire state of Florida. Just for reference, number 2 is actually Miami Airport, and number 3 is Disney World. Just to give you a reference, it generates that much. Over $41 billion in revenue a year. They have over 22,000 direct jobs, and they support around 325,000 total jobs. So it's kind of overlooked how important it is to downtown Miami and actually all of the state of Florida.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Neil. And I also want to highlight the fact about, you know, Miami is we are the only port in Florida that has a deep enough breadth to receive the Panamax ships that come through the canal. And it was a huge investment that was done. It was thanks to our the previous port administrators going back. You know, they had the foresight to plan for this day, and thanks to them, they had the vision and the plan, and we were able to get the money so that by the time the Panama Canal was expanded, Port Miami had enough depth to receive them. And so it's a huge opportunity.
And that in conjunction with the tunnel that got these trucks off our streets in downtown Miami was huge. And even in these COVID times, it's proven to be so important, because even though we know that the cruise ships have stopped, the cargo certainly has not. So it continues to be a very important economic engine that works hand in hand with the airport that they're going to address shortly in terms of the cargo.
Correct. Miami International as well. It's a huge asset for the county, huge revenue generator. You know, once we all start traveling again, you know, we've got the infrastructure, and you know, it's important to know that the international, not just passenger travel, which we have about 48 million passengers coming in and out of the airport on an annual basis. Of course, we'll have to wait for post-COVID to get back to that. But, you know, we are the #1 international air cargo hub in the US, and most people aren't aware of that. So that's super important for us. And the fact that we are the only pharmaceutical hub in the US is really strategic, because pharma generates more revenue for the county than, you know, a lot of our perishable products that are coming in and out of the airport. So that's going to be a huge asset for us as the airport continues to build out its pharma business. Of course, network access point of the Americas in the heart of downtown. It makes this, you know, digital and fiber optic center gives Miami one of the world's top 5 interconnected cities. A huge asset when you're talking about, you know, cryptocurrency and exchanges and having to transfer money on a blink of an eye. It's so important for this kind of infrastructure.
It's also one of the reasons why Miami and the DDA area in general is so resilient during storms, because we have a double grid on the electrical grid in order to keep it going all the time, even in case of storms, which is a wonderful thing, because the power, when it goes out there, it comes back almost instantly.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Miami-Dade College, right? It's a huge, you know, asset for our community. It has 5 campuses serving over 160,000 students. If it's not the largest, I think it's the second largest, you know, college in the U.S. Of course, Wilson is its main campus, servicing over 27,000 students, and they have a tremendous amount of certificate programs available, and it's really amazing. So here are a few pictures of Miami, because we all so quickly forget where we came from, right? You know, how far we have come. This is a picture of 2001, 2005, just before the Great Recession. And this is 2018. And of course, we need to, update this picture because I'm sure there's some things in the skyline that we're not capturing that have been built since then. But I'm really proud of Miami, and I'm really proud of its evolution, and I hope you are too.
One thing I wanted to mention on this as well, and I know Alicia and most of the people on this call probably, I'm preaching to the choir on this one, but when we were pitching Amazon to come to Miami for their HQ2, one of the things they talked about is they were impressed how many young people, young professionals lived in Miami, and they were wondering how could they even afford it. One of the things that, you look at a crisis and good things that come out of a crisis was in 2008, 2002 through 2008, we had this huge building boom. 2009, you have the, real estate and economic collapse. And then all of a sudden you had this surplus of, luxury condos, some apartments, and all of a sudden these younger generation could actually move in and afford it. And now here we are 10, 12 years later, and they've been, living and working in downtown Miami and in Brickell. And that's where kind of that crisis turned into an opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. And then, competitive advantage, that when you're talking about luxury real estate, Miami is a bargain when you're looking at all the other major cities out there, and it continues to be. So let's talk about COVID, right? Our new reality.
So we have a couple questions here, so I'm going to jump in. One of them is, does anyone have an update on nonstop flights to China? I would think that that's probably never happening right about now. But
yeah, it's a good question, and everybody has been asking it for the last decade, I think. The whole county is focused on it. It'll happen. We just don't know when.
Okay, and then on Biscayne Green, there's a question, but I know that's coming up in the presentation, so we'll hold on off on that for a minute. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, what have we been doing during COVID? Like you, we had to pivot, right? Overnight, our lives completely changed. So we had to really focus on our downtown existing businesses, particularly the restaurants and the retailers who were getting hit by this. They were on the front lines of this pandemic. So we started coming up with these programs, and the first one was the Go Local, where we decided, we were trying to help restaurants leapfrog the third-party deliveries, right? And have people incentivize them to order direct from the restaurant, and they would get a 10% discount. So it is a great program. It continues to be. We have about 20 restaurants and they keep joining every day that have joined in downtown. And the idea is for us to transition this program into a wider rewards program.
So Alona, we're going to have to speed this up a little bit,
okay,
because I'm looking at the time and it's 5:44. So
okay, all right. We have some grants. During the protests, there were some retailers that had some graffiti damage. We came up with a grant available to those companies and retailers. We also have a micro grant available for the small businesses that need to buy PPE equipment. So, we are supporting them as much as we can. The DET team and the ambassadors were out there. They've got masks. They're handing out masks to people walking down the streets. We have a Mask on Miami campaign right now. So we are out there trying to encourage people to maintain their masks and stay safe. Out there.
Oh, I was just saying, I could touch on this one. Government agencies are not always known for being nimble and able to respond and adapt. But one of the things we've had to do is every time a new emergency declaration or order comes out is try and pivot as quickly as possible. This is a good example. So we were trying to expand the seating capacity of outdoor restaurants. We were already working on this with the city, the county, the Miami Parking Authority. All of a sudden on Monday, we get new orders that, no more indoor dining, only outdoor dining. So now we are trying to facilitate all of our restaurants to have as much outdoor dining space as possible, whether it be closing down temporary parking spaces, full travel lanes, full road closures. So basically our staff works on with the restaurants, work with the city, the county, and the MPA to make sure this happens as quickly as possible. One more thing is we've been trying to also make sure that we're giving people entertainment opportunities when it was, had the stay-at-home quarantine. We do every Friday night, we do a Downtown Vibes, a free DJ set. We even had internationally renowned DJ David Guetta come here to Miami. 12 million people streamed this live. It raised $700,000, which translated to, I think, 1.7 million meals for senior citizens and low-income families. So it's kind of a good thing. We're trying to get people, to stay home, be responsible, but also give them something to do while they're there.
And it was so successful. Every Friday we have a virtual happy hour, and we sponsor a DJ on live streaming on our social media application.
Yeah, that GETA event was seen around the world, and it was absolutely amazing how he was bouncing back from different cities where they had setups, and everybody was just one big world on that night. It was quite amazing. Congratulations again on that one. It was something special.
So I'm going to just go really quickly. I know we're running out of time. How late do you want to go, Alicia? I know last time we did a half-hour presentation, and I think we did like almost an hour of Q&A. What do you want me to wrap up at?
So Jeff, Jason, somebody here, what's our wrap time?
We don't have a hard and fast one, but we try to keep the discussion to about an hour. Okay. And we started at about,
I'll start speeding up.
5:15. You're fine.
So questions we always get is, is Miami, has it fully grown up? Does it have all the cultural institutions that most major metropolitan cities have? So we're going to really quickly just show you some of the things that have been built in the last 20 years.
Who's talking in the background, guys? Someone's on the phone.
Hopefully it's not me. If my 3-year-old pops in the screen, let me know. So we have Adrian Arsh Center, has both the Ziff Ballet Opera House and the James L. Knight Concert Hall. Perez Art Museum, Miami, right there, what was formerly known as Museum Park, now Maurice Ferré Park, Brickell City Center, great example of
Neil, I'm just going to interrupt you a second because you went through that so quickly, but that represents how many billions of dollars in infrastructure investment in downtown Miami for the entertainment of our city. You're muted, Neil.
Oh, sorry. I would say all of these projects between the cultural institutions, the mixed use developments, I mean, you're talking upwards of $15 billion easily.
At least.
And this is all open to the public for our entertainment. And I think we often forget that this is the heart and soul of our city, and why protecting downtown Miami and funding it is so important. So anyway, just wanted to point that out because you go through it quickly and you forget all of the money that's gone into this. And a lot of it has been privately funded also.
Absolutely. I mean, Brickell City Center is an excellent example. I mean, you have hotel, retail, dining, restaurants, entertainment, residential, pretty much everything. And they also did a public-private partnership where, Swire Properties actually stepped up and renovated the Metro Mover stop into their heart of the Brickell City Center. Frost Science Museum is another excellent example. I mean, just opened 3 years ago. Someone did have a question about cultural facilities and when they'll be reopening. We did just receive a list of those that are open. Frost Science Center is now currently open, as well as History Miami and the main library. September 1st, right around the corner, Perez Art Museum, Freedom Tower, and Central Cultural Española are all set to open. What's not open right now still is Adrian Arsh, the Children's Museum, and the National Young Arts Museum. Of course, the COVID-19, that could change quickly, but just wanted to give a quick update. I'm going to talk a lot more about Miami Central when we get into transit. But again, another $1 billion plus mixed-use development. Miami World Center, portions of this are already completed. Almost, you'll see Alicia hinted at open space and destinations. I mean, this is incredible. And then finally, Skyrise. I don't always like to show this slide, but it is still under construction, a large entertainment venue right in the heart of the marina.
And one of the things that we're not seeing is the Ferris wheel, which is already there.
Correct.
And I was there the other day, and it's super cool. Can't wait till it opens. But there's a Ferris wheel just to the right of the Skyrise. So that whole area is really becoming our little entertainment park in the heart of downtown Miami.
Need to update this slide. They just changed stuff so quickly.
That's true.
I'm going to go through this super quickly. And obviously we know as COVID-19, this has changed a lot of things, but hopefully at some point we can get back to a point where Miami is a destination for events. Art Miami is the offshoot of Art Basel, and actually it's become larger and even more well-known all throughout downtown Miami. Miami Book Fair hosted at Miami-Dade College is one of the largest in the nation. We have the International Film Festival held at Olympia Theater and many other small theaters throughout downtown. Wadapalooza, some of you might be like, what the heck is that? Well, the CrossFit Games have become one of the biggest events in the nation, and Bayfront Park hosts that as well. Speaking of big events at Bayfront Park, we have Mercedes-Benz Corporate Run. Frankie Ruiz does the Miami Marathon, one of the, the most heavily attended marathons in all of the US. Ultra comes with a little bit of controversy, but it does pull in somewhere between 250 to 300,000 people per weekend per event, and is actually one of the more popular live music events around the world.
And the one thing that I love about Ultra, and no, it's not the music or even the lights, is that it introduces our city to all of these young people. And they come from all over the world, and then
Correct.
They come back. And like I say, when kids are little, they follow their parents. When kids get to be in their 20s, the parents follow them. This is not an inexpensive event. The tickets are like $300 a pop. So it's an expensive event. It brings a very affluent crowd to the city, and it is a great message that leaves the city and goes around the world in spite of the inconveniences that it brings. And
Yeah.
it's the biggest single producer of all of the events that happen. This is the biggest moneymaker, as I understand, for downtown.
That's correct. And as much as the residents don't like some of the loud noise, there's plenty of cities, Chicago, Millennium Park, Central Park, New York City, where they're able to coexist. And I will tell you, the restaurants, businesses, and especially hotels, they really do want this event because it helps, with their bottom line, for just one event for the whole year.
And I just want to say, it seems so long ago, but if you might remember, this was the first event that was canceled because of COVID.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for the downer, Alona. No, I'm kidding.
It seems so
What a
long
pic!
ago.
But look at the
Miami
picture.
Boat
How
Show.
can that picture not make everyone want to come to our city? I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
amazing. Yeah.
Out there, right there on Virginia Key. And we don't only have the boat show, but now we also have the yacht show held at Sea Isle Marina, where they take an existing marina and then they multiply it by 4, and it becomes literally a floating city for an entire week. It's quite incredible. And then just last year, right before everything happened, we had Super Bowl Live. This was the downtown destination for the Super Bowl, a whole week of free activities. So Miami has become a true destination for events. So, we don't have a ton of time, but I will try and go through this quickly. I'll just hit some of the high notes because these are some of the things that we already have in place and a lot are underway. Florida itself is not known as a bastion of mass transit, but we are lucky actually in downtown Miami, and this is often overlooked, how connected and how mobile we actually are. This map shows you how kind of all roads or all tracks kind of lead to downtown Miami, and then once you're there, you're able to actually get around without a car. We do know how unfun it is to travel via car on 95 or 836, but you do have options, and we have more coming online. I could go in much more detail, but Miami was started as a transit-oriented development when Julia Tuttle convinced Henry Flagler to bring his railroad here at the turn of the century. And this happened again 100 years later when Brightline, which is now known as Virgin Trains, brought high-speed intercity passenger rail back to Miami. Wonderful thing is high-end service connecting 3 cities, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm. As it affects downtown Miami, Miami Central is, again, one of those very, very, game changer as far as the transit-oriented development, mixed-use development. You can see the slide. It talks about how much of an economic impact it has. Again, residential, office space, retail, dining, entertainment, all wrapped around transit.
It's really a super cool, awesome space. And if you haven't been there, I encourage you to go. It's also a great date night. If you just want to go, jump on the train, you drink and eat on the way up and on the way back. You can have a full meal either in Palm Beach or in Fort Lauderdale or in Miami, but it is amazing.
Absolutely. Great place to bring your clients as well. Just wanted to show you also, it's not just Brightline or Virgin Trains. At the elevated tracks, there's actually 3 tracks where the trains come in for Virgin Trains, 2 for Tri-Rail. I'm going to show you in just a second kind of the maps and how that all is going to work out. As I mentioned, when Brightline was in operation before COVID-19, it had 3 stops. I used it every day to commute. Phase 2 was going to Orlando, and right there, hold on a second, that's my young daughter. Phase 3, actually not shown on this map, but agreed to by both mayors, Mayor of Tampa and Brightline, was to go to Tampa. So you have about an hour and 15-minute commute. And then phase 4, also going to Jacksonville. So where we didn't really have much passenger rail other than some Amtrak, all of a sudden we could see the majority of the state of Florida connected. Beyond Brightline, Brightline is a higher price point ticket, is much more of an experience. It's high speed, only minimal stops. Tri-Rail is our true commuter train connecting West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. You see the 18 different stops, 71 miles. On this map on the right, you can see, the black line is Tri-Rail. The green line is Metro Rail, just keep that in mind as I switch to the next slide, because that will show you Metro Rail system, 23 stations as we zoom in, connecting Northwest Miami all the way down to Dadeland South. We're gonna see the underline that goes underneath these tracks for 10 miles. And again, pay attention to the green and orange lines because we're gonna zoom back out again. There's that orange and green line. Those are the Metro Rail. The SMART plan is kind of a collaboration between the City of Miami, Miami-Dade County, Miami-Dade Transportation Planning Organization to expand mass transit during 6 different corridors, out to Miami Beach, out to Aventura, up to Miami Gardens and the football stadium, out west to Doral, out west to Kendall, and all the way to down to Dadeland South.
And I think important to know that already you can land in Miami from anywhere in the world and get to downtown and then be connected to a lot of this. And you can leave downtown and go to anywhere in the world without ever using a car. And that's happened already for a couple of years. And I think for many people, it's still a well-kept secret. So spread the word.
Absolutely. A lot of people say, well, when is this coming online? They are going right now, all 6 corridors are going under federally mandated studies. And when they find out the end, what they'll know is, what's the technology? Is it elevated rail? Is it rail at grade? Is it Metro Mover, bus rapid transit? How many stations? And then, who's going to be operate and maintain? So there's different partners in each one of these. If you do bus rapid transit, it can run $500 million to do 1 corridor. If you do elevated heavy rail, like Metro Rail, it can cost $2 billion. So you do those numbers times 6, and that's why you really need the federal investment. Again, as I said, when you're downtown Miami, you are very well connected via the Metro Mover. You have the inner loop, all goes up to the Omni Loop, all the way up to Adrian Arch, and then you have the Brickell Loop as well. There's always been talks about expanding the Metro Mover further north up to Wynwood, Design District, and Midtown, as well as expanding Brickell as well. And this possibly could be the beach connector that goes out to Miami Beach and would connect via Metro Mover. We have the Miami Trolley, 10 different routes, all free, basically connecting all of downtown Miami as well. And I know a lot of people always ask about micro mobility. So not only do you have the Metro Mover, but we have 6 different scooter companies, 2 e-bike companies, 1 traditional bike company, 2 moped companies, freebie. There, any way you want to get around downtown for the first and last mile, you can. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, the scooter program was put on hold. I had heard that Miami and Atlanta were the only 2 cities that did put it on hold, so I do hope it comes back. One thing more about the scooters, I know they can be kind of a nuisance because they're kind of everywhere, but the good thing about them is that they actually raised $1 million in fees that are going to go towards the implementation of protected bike lanes in downtown Miami. We don't have those, we need those. So the county and the city are working together to do 2.5 miles of protected separated bike lanes, which is hopefully going to start this fall. So if we can get the scooters off the sidewalks, onto the bike lanes, even better. I know we're getting close to our time, so I'll just keep going and you tell me when to stop. I talked really quickly before about the underline. So what is the underline? This is the M path, which is like a 6 to 8 foot wide path that goes parallel to the Metro Rail for 10 miles from Brickell down to Dadeland. But the idea is to transform it into a truly, wonderful space. It's a little similar to the High Line in New York City, where you took an abandoned rail line and turned it into a pedestrian and tourist space. But this one would be really much more usable at the ground level. 10 miles, shared use paths. The design would change at different stations and different locations. You can see like in the heart of Brickell where you have kind of like unused space or just, kind of areas for dogs, because places for people, outdoor dining, basketball courts, entertainment, reading spaces. Again, another section right next to Coyo Taco, kind of an underused, not well-maintained area, all of a sudden becomes a multi-use path with art, again, passive, nighttime lighting, truly wonderful space. Phase 1, 2 miles in Brickell is already under construction, and they are planning on opening in October of this year. So you'll get to actually see it in person. And then the full 10 miles will be built out over the next 8 years.
And very important also is that the impact on the real estate values of when the thing in New York was built, the High Line in New York was built, were enormous. So there's very good projections about what the impact of the underline will be to the adjacent real estate properties. So keep an eye out for that, because if you're if there's availability there, whatever is close to this park will go up in value the way it would to a normal park. It's a very big impact.
Next project we're looking at is the Signature Bridge. I read all the articles in the paper and on the online sources, and I see a lot of times people are saying, why is FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, spending $800 million on a bridge when we already have one? Do we really need this sculptural piece right in the heart of downtown? Well, I can give you a couple answers to that. So this is sort of where the Signature Bridge is going along 395. They are actually redoing parts of 836 as well. If I was to zoom this map out and I would go back in time to the 1950s when 95 was being built, it was built where the most affordable land was, the historic African-American community of Overtown. So they basically put 95 right down through the heart of it, buying people out, using eminent domain, ruined a wonderful historic neighborhood. 10 years later in the 60s when they built 395, did the exact same thing. Now, the reason this is not only terrible for it ruins a community is what it did at the ground level. So you have these overpasses, only 18 feet above ground level, many, hundreds if not thousands of support columns, embankments. They're dark, underused spaces, become homeless hangouts. So the idea with the Signature Bridge is twofold. One, the new design of the bridge is actually going to lift it up from 18 feet above ground to 60 feet above ground, a lot more space and light. Because of modern technology, you need much less support columns. So all of a sudden, instead of thousands of them, you have like 100. The best part about this project is what you're seeing at the ground level, and that's tentatively called the underdeck. Some of these slides show you what it is projected to look like when it is done. This project is already underway. It's a 6-year build out, so we're looking at 2024. It's a mixture of green space, hard space, fountains, kiosks. When it's all said and done, again, here's the slide. I'm going back again so you can kind of see the confines of it. And this is what it looks like, as plan view, a 33-acre park reconnecting downtown to Overtown. For reference, Bayfront Park is 32 acres. So we're talking slightly larger than Bayfront Park, but it is a linear park connecting back to downtown. And again, at nighttime, instead of it being a homeless area or a nefarious area, it actually can be a live welcoming. And to Alicia's point about economic development, improving the quality of life, mobility, connectivity, and property values, this is a really, mega project.
And Neil, you've mentioned homelessness several times in this part of the presentation. So I'm going to say that, as we know from watching the news, homelessness is a huge issue, and we've seen it grow exponentially in many cities. The DDA has been on the forefront of litigation and really coming in defense of our businesses so that they would not be overtaken by inappropriate behavior while being respectful of the homeless community. And in doing that, we've, for instance, activated the first manned and staffed construction of public bathrooms so that the homeless have a place to go with dignity. They're also working very hard to come up with solutions so that our homeless population is not left on the street, but with both mental health work that's being done for the people that are in fact mentally ill, and also for just helping people who have just fallen into hard times with many programs to get them off the street. So this is a very important part of our task so that our city does not become overrun, especially with the financial challenges that we're facing now. So if you want to add to that, please do, because I think that's something that we all think about as we look at other cities that are becoming overrun.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Alicia. I'm looking at the time. I'll just go through the last two projects, Baywalk and Biscayne Green, because those are usually the ones we get asked about a lot. And then hopefully we can all get to our bottle of wine or dinner, or both. Baywalk and Riverwalk. So for anyone on our call today that aren't familiar with Baywalk and Riverwalk, I'm going to try and move this out of the way. Basically, the Baywalk runs along the edge of our waterfront, all the way from Edgewater down through the heart of CBD, Central Business District, on down to Brickell. Now, how it came to be is we had a prominent land use attorney named Dan Paul, who petitioned City Commission and the mayor to put in a land use amendment, which he did in 1979, which stated that any new development that happened on the waterfront, whether it be Biscayne Bay or the Miami River, set back their building facade and vertical structure 50 feet from the water's edge, and within that 50 feet, build a dedicated 25-foot pedestrian use right-of-way. The public or private owner would be responsible for building it and maintaining it. So incrementally, over the last 40 years, we've built out 88% of the Baywalk and 65% of the Riverwalk. We at the DDA are working on finishing those final gaps. You'll see that. But one of the things that happened was, as wonderful as that Dan Paul Amendment was, there wasn't a lot of stringent or wonderful design guidelines to kind of promote good design versus bad. And this is a good example where you have Maurice Frey Park, good landscaping, lighting, hardscape, benches, amenities, activity, versus right next door underneath the Port Bridge by American Airlines Arena where you have none of that. And one is a very attractive thing that would bring in families and economic development, the other not so much. So we've been looking at different, wonderful baywalks and riverwalks from around the US. Tampa, this is a great example. The slide up on the upper right is what the Riverwalk used to look like. Piecemeal sections of it. The city of Tampa got an $11 million federal Tiger grant, built out this 1,600-foot long section over the water, overnight transformed not just the Riverwalk, but all of downtown and the economic development and the amount of residential infill that's happened since then. We're trying to do the same thing with a pedestrian bridge up by Maurice Frey Park. And then we want to activate it, whether it's water taxis, outdoor dining. Chicago is another city that's done a wonderful job. They've taken a lot of old manufacturing areas, places that people would not go before, and opened up outdoor dining, restaurants, kayak and paddleboard rentals. Every time I go visit my sister, this is the first place I go, and it really has changed an already wonderful city and even into that much more of an amenity. And then the design guidelines that we'll be putting forth definitely deal with night lighting and activation because you have to make it safe and welcoming. So
also important to protect our city from sea level rise and all of that. So it's not just beautiful, but it's very functional and significant.
We could do a whole nother hour post on resiliency and sea level rise. Maybe we should, but yeah, so these design guidelines will be going to city commission soon. They'll help guide future development. You can see these are existing sections and you can see the transformation as you bring in good amenities, good materials, access to the water, night lighting, really to make it safe and welcoming. Again, a dead end spot underneath the bridge. We're going to be pursuing this very soon, an over the water pedestrian bridge. Underneath bridges, they're again, not welcome places, but with good design, good materials, activity, kiosks, you can transform these places. And we've seen it in other cities many times. And then the idea, of course, is to have this pearl of lights leading the entire Baywalk and Riverwalk so it feels safe and welcoming at night. Last project, Biscayne Green. So Biscayne Green is kind of an idea and concept of what great cities around the world do. And like developed cities like Barcelona, where they have these green spines going right through the heart of downtown. Las Ramblas is an excellent example. Not only is it a beautiful place, but you have a mix of uses, retail, residential, dining, entertainment, kiosks, people, but you have residential and vehicular together. Same thing with Paseo del Prado in Madrid. Again, wonderful space. These are equally hot cities, but they are wonderful places with a large shade canopy and mix of uses. But we have some of these examples here at home as well. Clyde Warren Park is an example where they had a highway going right through the heart of Dallas that bisected the residential area. So they did basically land bridges on top. You can see the cars going underneath. And what happens, beautiful bird's eye, but at ground level is truly where it becomes a wonderful connected space. Again, dining, retail, passive, programmed, live events, places for people to go instead of just highways. The Rose Kennedy Greenway is a great example. This is a highway going right through the heart of Boston. This led to the project called the Big Dig. Instead of cars and parking and highways bisecting right through the heart of the downtown, they transformed it. The cars go underground, people stay up on top, businesses do better, economics are driven. It becomes truly a destination for people to go. So for our context, Biscayne Boulevard, only for 6 blocks has 8 lanes of traffic and 6 parking bays. If you go south of here, you only have 2 or 3 lanes of traffic. If you go north of here, you go back to 3 or 2 lanes of traffic. So when people hear that we might be removing lanes of traffic, we're not actually making traffic worse. We're actually trying to take a speedway out of downtown. It's also a very unsafe area for pedestrians, elderly, bicycles. There's no basically people area in the heart of core of downtown. So the idea is to transform this, repurpose some of these superfluous lanes into bike and pedestrian facilities, bus facilities, and people places. In order to do this, you have to really grow your advocacy. You have to convince your elected officials, your residents and businesses that this is something worthwhile. So we did that. We've done a lot of public outreach. We had charrettes. 3 years ago, we decided to do an actual 1-month public space intervention. We did something called a pop-up park, where in less than 1 week, we built out a park in some of those parking spaces. We wrapped the columns, we spray painted murals, we built furniture, we did temporary bus and bike lanes, we did artistic pedestrian crossings, laid down real turf, fake turf, and we took basically spaces that are dedicated only for cars and transformed them into places for people. And you can see the transformation both day and night. We did have, a lot of times we didn't have events, we left it open, movable furniture, let people really create their own space, but we did have events as well because we wanted to draw on as many different peoples. Food and music festivals, puppy brunches, health and wellness days. We had workouts, yoga, live music for all different types of cultures and age ranges, really trying to draw on as many different people as possible. The entire time this event was going on, and it was 21 days, 27 events, 21,000 people. The entire time we had DDA staff out there with clipboards and iPads asking people, what did you like? What didn't you like? What is missing? The number one response we got overwhelmingly is, please tell me this is permanent. Please tell me this is staying. We had to tell them, no, it's a demonstration to let you have an experience to see what the future project could be like, build that grassroots advocacy, prove to our elected officials that this is something worthwhile. So we are undergoing a required lane elimination analysis. When that's done, the partners, which are FDOT, the City of Miami, Miami-Dade County, and the Miami Parking Authority, will be bringing this project forward for federal funding. And perhaps within 10 years, this actually could be built out.
This was an incredible effort, and you all did an unbelievable job. I don't know if anybody went out there, but it was really transformational. And I have an office right there, and a lot of people were concerned that I would have problems with losing the parking, but this trumps parking all day long.
I see someone in the audience that I recognize right here. Okay. So anyways, we would love to open it up to Q&A. We would like to thank our hosts for having us.
We're going to give you a couple extra minutes to talk about that resiliency and adaptation because Jeff, our commander-in-chief, said this is too good not to let you keep going. So go for it.
Okay. This is where I always have my backup slides ready just in case. So let me open them up.
There you go.
Hide them. Will they unhide? Okay.
There, I'm seeing your resiliency one pop up there with a beautiful crane, I think it is, in the middle.
Here we go. Yeah. So again, this is a conversation that we could do just an hour alone on. I'll try to do it quickly. We are always looking at how do we balance the needs of our infrastructure that's built out, our true economic engine of downtown, our residents, our life, the marine ecology, our water sports, our boating and marine economy. So it's difficult. One of the big things that's going on right now is the United States Army Corps of Engineers back-based study. They look at properties, repetitive loss properties, such as Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Maria. They look at vulnerable coastal areas that have huge losses from flooding and damage. And they look at it and they say, hey, FEMA keeps having to spend millions and millions of dollars. Let's build out infrastructure with federal funding ahead of time to prevent these from happening. So right now they're right in the midst of a 3-year study. They're looking at different, basically infrastructure, both physical and nature-based features to protect our shoreline. Some of those are living shorelines, barrier islands. Some of them though are large, typical gray infrastructure like coastal walls, dams, gates. Here's the good thing. This study, basically when it goes to Congress, has the ability to get $4.6 billion towards coastal protection. 65% of that is paid for by Congress, and then the city, the county, and the state are responsible for the additional 35%. This is money that we would not be able to get otherwise. We just don't have $3 billion in our budget to build out these type of structures. The Army Corps is open for comments right now. We're going to work the DDA with consultants who are coastal resilience experts to come up with alternatives and solutions that are better than just large walls outside of our bay, which would, protect us from large storm events, but would have a detrimental effect to property values, our marine and boating life, to what Miami really is known for. So, like I said, we're going to work with some coastal resilience experts, give our suggestions to the Army Corps, and then in 3 years, we will find out what they're actually going to build But I will say from other projects they've done, Jacksonville, Virginia Beach, Lower Manhattan, Baltimore, Charleston, Savannah, they do take into account what the local leaders, stakeholders, and officials want, and they do take that into account. Biscayne Bay Task Force is ongoing for the last year, looking at the seagrass die-off in Biscayne Bay and what are the causes of it and how they can remedy it. We've been looking at living shorelines infrastructure. Don't know what that is. It's basically, here's a good picture on this right. Let me move this over. This is Lake Worth, just south of West Palm Beach. And they were looking at protecting their shoreline as well. So they dredge out sandy basins, build up barrier islands, and then use native vegetation like seagrasses and mangroves to stabilize the shoreline. And when you have a large storm event, these actually break up the wave energy and they dissipate it. They actually promote more marine, avian, ecological life. They're just a win-win. They don't, keep away from the boating life, but they do protect your shoreline without a large wall going right down the middle of your waterfront. Before COVID-19, we were in preparation to do a demonstration project, working with Frost Science Museum and 3 different environmental organizations to actually build one of these, test it, monitor it, and see how effective it is to kind of prove to our stakeholders that it's necessary. We also brought in ULI, which is the Urban Land Institute. They have something called the Advisory Services Panel, where they bring in experts from around the world and they bring them into downtown Miami. They study, over 5 days nonstop, study all of our issues when it comes to hydrology, coastal resilience, topography, soils, and then they give recommendations as how you can leverage your assets and investments and actually build out some of these protective measures. Because it's not just about coastal resilience from storms, it's also looking at sea level rise, sunny day flooding, and all the issues that we have in downtown Miami, Miami Beach. They're not going away, they're only getting exacerbated. So it's really important to invest money to protect us for the next 40, 60 years.
So thank you so much, Neil. I think that ends the formal presentation and we start the Q&A. I'm going to start with just asking you for those people that may be interested in supporting the DDA and what they do. I will be happily telling you that there is no call to raise funds by the DDA at all, but we do need help in other ways. So Neil, Alona, why don't you tell the participants today how they might be able to support some of these projects if they think they're important, and or the DDA in general and the mission.
Okay. From my perspective, from the business development perspective, we want your voice. We want your voice heard. So I would encourage you to come to our meetings. They're all open to the public. We have 2 committees. One is an enterprise committee, which Alicia is on. It's the business development. And then there's the urban quality of life committee. And then our board meetings, all of them happen monthly and they're all open to the public. So we encourage your feedback, your voice to help us continue to evolve and grow our great city.
And from my end, I would say there's probably 2 things. One, I'll do a follow-up email where, and I'll provide you speaking points if you'd like. As far as that Back Bay study, it is important for the Coast Guard and elected officials to hear that, we'd like to see different alternatives to a giant wall going up on our waterfront. And then I was trying to remember the second part. Oh, I was about to say, we, the DDA, we serve downtown Miami. So if you ever need us to serve on your behalf, we are happy to do so. We're happy to give these presentations. We're happy to pitch Miami. Alicia has been kind enough to invite us to a few of these before. So yeah, we're here to help you as well.
So, and I'm going to add to that I think that your voices are so important, and that if you're supportive of some of these programs like the Bay Walk or the River Walk, or whatever else it may be, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, encourage them to support these things. At some point they may be on the ballot and they won't get done unless you vote for them. So I think it's an important message to get out and to make that clear. So then we had some questions that had been sent in earlier. One of them was about the article that the Miami Herald put out that there had been an increase of 29,000 square feet leased of office space during COVID. Do you guys have any comments to that?
I read the same article and I've spoken to commercial office brokers and they told me that it's been stable. We're happy to see that increase, that lease activity. In my day-to-day conversations with businesses, they're interested, but we're all waiting to see what happens. You know, there are those companies that are actually increasing their footprint because of the social distancing requirements. And then there are those companies that are thinking of reducing their footprint because now they know.
We have an echo, guys.
Yeah, the common denominator is people still need to get together. We're not going to become a virtual environment forever. You know, companies are going to continue to need space for their employees to congregate. And with the amount, we've got 800,000 square feet of new office space coming down the pipeline in the next 2 years, with more in the horizon. People don't make those kind of bets easily. So I'm convinced we are going to get back to some kind of normalcy at some point.
So we have a question about the FEC boat slip and if we're going to be able to keep that open.
Oh, yes. Oh, I remember that. Right. So yes, one of the commissioners had an idea to maximize acreage and fill it in. Right now, under Miami-Dade County Division of Environmental Resources Management, it's a mouthful, but you can call them DERM, they don't allow that. They don't actually allow anything to be filled into the bay. This goes back to the Manatee Protection Plan and the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Preserve. So that's technically not allowed. You would, that commissioner would have to, I guess, lobby not only a county commission, but the state of Florida as well. Given what's going on with the Back Bay study, I don't see that happening. That would be where, if we are going to implement some coastal infrastructure to protect downtown, that's where the federal government gets involved, and they would supersede that, county protection. But I don't see that FEC slip being filled in anytime soon. I could be wrong, but I think you're okay for right now.
Yeah, and by the way, one of the DDA is quasi judicial. So one of the things that we do is pass resolutions. Those resolutions are then taken back to the county and the city by the respective representatives that sit on the board. So I think that does carry a voice because collectively we are representing downtown. So if you have something that you think is important and you think it needs to be brought to the attention of our city and it affects the Downtown Development Authority area, then do bring it to the attention of the DDA, because that's something that we're active. This particular thing was brought in and I think we all had a heart attack about it. But anyway, the Frost Science Museum, does anybody know, that's open. Does anybody know when the Perez Art Museum is opening up?
They're scheduled to be open September 1st. Obviously, things can change, sometimes daily or hourly these days, but for right now, September 1st.
And I did speak with them, and there's also a presidential debate that's confirmed to take place there in October. So
very cool.
It's
on. I thought that was at Adrian Arsh.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. That was at the Adrian Arsh. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Do we know if Art Basel, Art Miami, etc. will take place this year? Good question.
It's a great question. At this point, we don't know. Thankfully, it's in December. So hopefully it's something we can, have come back. I don't have the crystal ball on that one.
And then we've noticed a big decrease in graffiti in downtown Miami, which was rather delightful. Do you guys have the graffiti police out there? What's going on?
I spoke with my colleague yesterday who manages the ambassadors and the DET team, and she said, absolutely. The day the most of the vandalism with the graffiti happened right at the end of May with those 2 protests over the weekend. And immediately, the day after, our DET team was out there reporting back, where the damage was, and within the week, they had cleaned it all up. So
it's really been amazing. I think it's cleaner than before all of that disturbance started. That's super amazing. Then there's a question about securing funding at the state level. I think there was a lot of disappointment about the fact that we got all these funds approved and then whoop, vetoed by our governor. Anything you think we could do to move that along?
I think COVID gets in the way, right? COVID, hurricanes, they sometimes take precedence and the emergency situations take away from the priorities of things that we're working on. But I think, Alicia, like you said, we just need to get our constituents involved, write letters, get together, do a PAC, and do activities to bring attention to these projects because they are important for the future of our city.
If you have powerful or influential friends in Tallahassee, please let us know.
Okay. I think that's it for the questions. Oh, short-term rental policy during COVID.
I read an emergency order by Jimenez. It came out with the restaurant, emergency order. And basically he's not allowing short-term below, that is less than a month long lease. I guess a lot of people were using these short-term rentals to create parties and have close connection with people. And the emergency order came back that, that's going to be prohibited until further notice. And they have a minimum of 10 people under a house with certain limitations.
There is a protest, by the way, going on tomorrow between 11 and 2 in downtown to get the restaurants reopened. So just as a point of information, if you want to avoid the traffic, support or not, so that you know what's going on. This means I'm going to have to close my offices down for, I don't know, the 7th time maybe in the last month or so.
A restaurant still allowed to serve outside?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Yeah, they are. They weren't, and then they were. That was a quick flip-flop, gratefully.
Right.
So
they're allowed takeout, delivery, and outdoor dining as of right now.
yes. So
Alicia, one more point to your question about, at the state legislature and lobbying and funding. I will say, though, a lot of our projects, as much as they get approved and then vetoed, a lot of them are not what are called quote unquote shovel ready. So I know that's a lot of times they look for, are these projects ready to start right now? If they are, and you can prove that you're actually going to have construction jobs, attributed to this funding, then there's a greater chance of them getting approved. So
that's a great point.
A good example for us as we move in some of these projects, especially along the Baywalk, this I-395 pedestrian bridge project that I alluded to earlier, it's going to be put out, the RFQ for design next week. So it'll take a year to design it. It'll take probably a year and a half to get all the designs and permits done. So in 2 years, when it's ready for construction, that's when I'd like to see, are we going to see those vetoes again? Because then it truly will be permitted, shovel ready, ready to go.
Valid point. Great point, as a matter of fact. Okay, so something else also that the DDA, I want to just reiterate, all of these slides can be used, right? They're for the benefit of the public. So if you want to put them on your website, if you want to do any of that stuff, you can. No worries about that. And they also have great marketing materials. So if you want to communicate about any of these projects, if you want to use it as, a direct mail campaign or whatever on your social media, reach out to the DDA and maybe you guys can tell us the easiest way to do that. And Jason, maybe for whatever reason, I can't write anything on the chat. So I'm trying to respond, but I can't. So Jason, it's all you. Maybe, we can provide some of that if you're all interested in it.
We'll make sure to send the presentation and a replay of this video to the entire chapter. So you'll have all the materials at your disposal. And I think Jeff had some final thoughts to send us home.
Yes. So Alicia, Ilona, Neil, thank you for this fascinating and engaging discussion and for everything you do to promote downtown Miami. I'm blown away at these incredible projects, the Underline, the Baywalk, the Riverwalk. Absolutely exciting. Miami is the greatest city on earth and will only get better. We truly appreciate your time, attention, participation. Some quick housekeeping notes before we sign off. Let me thank Pat Clock Parker and Chris Zoller for making this discussion possible. Second, we'd like to thank all of you who've already made your 2020 MBF dues payments. In light of the pandemic and its impact, we extend our early payment discount period for an additional month in March and April and have not imposed a deadline or late fee. Finally, in addition to these discussions and the benefits of distinguishing yourself as a master broker, we encourage you to follow MBF on social media and to take advantage of our free Master Brokers Voices and Master Brokers Listing programs. Good night, stay safe, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Good night.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you guys. It's amazing, really.
Okay.
Great job.